Hey guys, I was just like working real hard, and I just thought of a really sweet metaphor, and it kind of sums up my experience like over the last like 4 months, probably more than that, and my experience regarding like getting progress and making progress in my life and making my life better and solving a lot of my problems, my emotional problems, my problems in the external world as well. And I'll just show you what I mean and what I'm working on at the moment. So, I'm currently digging this hole, and as you can see, basically 90% of the earth, probably no, that's an exaggeration, like 40% of the earth is like rock, and then the rest is like earth. Just look at that. So basically, I was getting a bit impatient before, and there was this massive rock here. Well, not that big, but it's like really lodged in there really nicely. And I was trying to get it out for ages, and I was like whacking at it, and there was like sparks flying everywhere from like the tool on the rock. And I wasn't really making that much progress because I was being a bit impatient, and I had something that I wanted, and what I wanted was that rock. I wanted to remove the rock so I could make my life a bit easier and I could dig the hole. But the rock was in my way. I kept whacking at it for ages, but I wasn't getting anywhere. And I was just like focusing only on the rock. But I wasn't focusing on all of the other rocks that were holding in that big rock. You know, like if you look, I removed some of them. But basically the rock was just like, the reason why it was lodged in there is because there's all these tiny little rocks around it that were holding it in place. And I think that's a really good metaphor for life, and it's like what I've experienced in the last few months. And that is that if there's something that you really want, often the reason you're not going to get it if you like focus directly on it is because it's held in there by all of these other things. Like, for instance, like I wanted to get better at singing, and my singing was getting worse and worse and worse, and I couldn't quite figure out why. Partly because I wasn't practicing, but because my singing was getting worse, I wasn't practicing more, and it was just like this chain effect where I became bad at singing again. And when I really thought about it and became conscious of all of the things that impact my singing, I was able to remove a lot of little rocks, and then I was able to sing again. For instance, I was like smoking at parties. I was just like socially smoking cigarettes. And when I stopped doing that, it was difficult because I was slightly addicted. When I stopped doing that, all my throat opened up again and I was able to sing. It was also regarding drinking milk, because milk releases a lot of acid reflux into my throat, and it stops the air from coming through, and it stops my throat from being relaxed. So I stopped drinking milk. Also, it was about the amount of exercise I had. So as I started doing more exercise again, because I'm working every day here in this workaway in Argentina, when I started doing more exercise, I started to breathe more, and now my breaths are deeper and they're longer, and that really improved my singing as well. So there was all these little rocks that I had to remove, or fix, or and remove before I could get to the big rock and get what I really wanted, which was to sing really well. So I think that's an awesome metaphor for life. So now I'm going to show you how I came about that metaphor in the real world. And I'm going to try to remove this rock, and hopefully my theory is right. And if I remove all of the little rocks, then I can get to the big juicy rock, remove it, and then I can go have lunch. No. I'm removing rocks now, little tiny rocks. And I think in real life, this would be like, you know, the metaphorical equivalent of, you know, getting rid of bad habits. And bigger. That's good. Whew. Try one-handed. Jesus. Smashing the rocks to pieces. Alright dudes, we're making some progress. Oh, Jesus. Getting some little rocks. Oh yeah. So when you remove the little rocks, that would be the equivalent of removing a bad habit. What happens is you're left with all this dirt and this mess and this chaos. And I think that would be like the equivalent of like going through emotional pain, because often our addictions and our habits hide up a lot of the pain that we have inside, and they cover that up. So in order to get to the big rock, you got to go through all the shit, basically all the dirt. You got to sift through it, remove it all. You got to feel the emotion. You got to go straight through it. There's no way around the emotion. The only way is out is just to go straight into it. All right, guys, we're nearing the climax here. About to remove the rock. So this is an important step. And in real life, I think this would be the equivalent of like an epiphany or a realization. Once you've kind of overcome a lot of your bad habits, and then you finally get to remove the big rock and then go have some lunch. Jesus. Okay. There we go. Coming out. Oh yeah. Now, if you just have a look here, the reason it wasn't coming out was because of this other rock here. So now we can remove that rock and then we can get to the big rock. Oh yeah. Alright dudes, so I just finished digging out that big rock. Now as you can see, there's always more rocks. And I think that's a good metaphor for life again, because you know, you're always going to have problems, no matter what you do, no matter where you go. And you're always going to be confronted with things that you don't understand. You just have to learn how to dig out the rocks slowly and figure out what's holding them in place. And then that's how you can make your life better. And it's also like how you find a purpose in your life as well. Because the process by which you kind of overcome things and learn and confront unfamiliar situations is kind of like what gives your life meaning, you know. And there's a lot of books about that principle, and I think it's definitely true. I think just overcoming obstacles, you know, making a goal, accomplishing that goal, and then moving forward, and then confronting the next thing. The process by which you do that is what gives your life a purpose and a meaning. And I think it's a misconception to think that like the meaning of life is like a static thing. Like it's not. It's like it's a process orientated thing. It's like you're going to be consumed by a process, and then you don't even question why life is, you know, you don't even question if life is meaningful or not when you're just engaged in a process. So now I'm going to continue digging out the rocks. And in my real life, I'm just going to continue living, trying to confront things and trying to learn things and trying to focus on, you know, the things that are changing, and try to confront unknown situations and confront fears as well. Thanks for listening, guys.